let's head over to the W, where Paige Bueckers was front page news this morning because of what she did last night.
In a sport already electrified by record-breaking feats and the rise of new superstars, one daring statement has ignited heated debate. Paige Bueckers, the UConn sensation and former National Player of the Year, stands at its center.
In the half, Bueckers with the steal. With two, with one, lets it fly. Got it!
Paige Bueckers openly declared she was better than Caitlin Clark, a bold statement that instantly split the basketball world. Some WNBA veterans praised her words as confidence, while others saw it as blatant disrespect toward Clark, widely regarded as the future face of women's basketball. But was Bueckers simply speaking her truth, or was she throwing shade? The league has been eager to mold its next superstar, carefully marketing Bueckers as the heir to Clark's throne. Promoted as the chosen one, she was positioned as the savior who could carry women's basketball into a new era. Yet under the unforgiving glare of national television, that image cracked. When Bueckers faced the Seattle Storm, the narrative collapsed. Their defense didn't just test her, it exposed her. What unfolded wasn't a minor setback or a wake-up call, but a complete dismantling of the Paige Bueckers myth. For months, sports networks, commentators, and media outlets repeated the same storyline. Paige Bueckers was destined to lead the league after Clark. But in one brutal game, reality cut through the hype, leaving fans questioning whether the legend of Paige Bueckers was ever real.
So good at keeping her dribble.
Oh my goodness!
Unreal.
She was hailed as the rising star destined not only to match Clark's brilliance, but possibly surpass it. Praised for her smooth play, sharp efficiency, and mature intelligence on the court, with statistics seemingly supporting the hype.
Off the screen, has it taken away. Just the second turnover for Clark. As Bueckers snatched that one. Bueckers through the contact with a bucket in the fence.
In only 11 games, she became the fastest player in league history to reach 200 points and 50 assists, accomplishing the feat one game quicker than Clark managed.
Indiana's lost double-digit second-half lead, 3 in the last.
Come on, Paige!
That single statistic made waves, drawing coverage from mainstream and conservative sports outlets alike. ESPN even placed her 13th in their mid-season rankings, fueling belief her coronation had begun. Just days before, she delivered a jaw-dropping 44-point performance against the Los Angeles Sparks, shooting an astounding 80% from the field. But on August 22, 2025, the narrative took a dramatic turn.
Off the flex cut is Bueckers. And that's a new career high for the rookie out of UConn.
Analysts and fans could not stop raving. Scoring 44 points in a professional game is already rare, but doing it with such stunning efficiency looked like the mark of greatness. Paige Bueckers had just delivered the type of performance that fuels myth-making, the kind of night that convinces even skeptics that the media's narrative might actually be real. For many, it seemed like her official entry into the superstar tier. But basketball does not crown champions based on one night of fireworks. Longevity, consistency, and the ability to perform against the league's most elite defenses are what define greatness. And when Bueckers stepped onto the floor against the Seattle Storm, the hype train collided headfirst with the harsh wall of reality. Seattle made one thing clear from the opening possession: Paige Bueckers was not going to run free. They defended her with the same intensity and suffocating pressure that Caitlin Clark has faced since her very first game in the league. They blitzed her off screens, doubled her at the perimeter, and denied her any opportunity to dictate the game at her own pace. The smoothness that defined her breakout performance evaporated. The freedom was gone. Every movement was contested, every possession pressured. The result? Brutal. Against the Storm, Paige Bueckers scored just 11 points. Not 11 in the first quarter, not 11 by halftime, 11 for the entire game. Her shooting fell apart as she connected on only 2 of her 11 attempts. She tallied 0 assists and just 2 rebounds. For someone who had been hailed as the heir apparent to Clark, the stat sheet told a cruel story, not of a rising superstar, but of a player completely neutralized when faced with true championship-level defense. The contrast was even sharper because of timing. Just days earlier, Bueckers had been celebrated for her 44-point explosion against the Los Angeles Sparks, a game many had hailed as her crowning achievement. That performance was treated as the moment she ascended into the ranks of the elite. Yet in Seattle, her very next outing, she looked overwhelmed and outmatched, exposing cracks in the carefully constructed image that surrounded her. So, what exactly happened? To understand, we have to break down Seattle's defensive storm. The Storm's defensive coordinator, Noah Quinn, revealed the strategy before the game in remarkably straightforward terms. After Bueckers erupted for 44 points in a wide variety of ways against Los Angeles, the Storm wanted to find out if she could handle what has now become known as the Caitlin Clark treatment. The answer, as the night played out, was clear: she could not. Quinn's plan revolved around relentless physicality. From the opening tip, Seattle made it their mission to test Bueckers' toughness and composure. Their defenders closed off her space, forced her into difficult decisions, and attacked her favorite actions with aggression. Slim, one of Seattle's key defenders, set the tone by hounding her at every turn, denying her rhythm. Multiple players rotated onto her, traps were shown at the screen, and passing lanes vanished before her eyes. The message from Seattle's defense was unmistakable: every inch of the floor had to be earned. This is where the comparison to Caitlin Clark becomes unavoidable. Clark, the player who has already reshaped the entire women's game, has been absorbing this kind of punishment since she entered the league. In fact, the numbers are staggering. During the 2024 WNBA season, 17% of all flagrant fouls across the league were committed against Clark alone. That's not normal defense. That's systematic targeting, more comparable to NFL linebackers delivering crushing hits than basketball strategy. Even more astonishing is that nearly 80% of those flagrant fouls came from a single team, the Chicago Sky. Clark has been the bullseye of the league's most aggressive tactics, the nightly target of defenses designed to wear her down both physically and mentally. Bueckers, by contrast, had been shielded from that reality. Through her early games, she played with a freedom that felt almost collegiate: minimal contact, softer defensive assignments, and opponents who hadn't yet decided she was worth the bruising attention Clark automatically receives. She thrived under those conditions. But when the Storm finally decided to test her toughness with Clark-level intensity, her game collapsed. On pick and rolls, she was doubled. Out of her comfort spots, she was blitzed. Every release was contested. Her confidence faded with each possession. Rather than adjusting or attacking, she deferred, passing the ball away under pressure instead of forcing the issue. By the time the game slipped out of reach, Bueckers had attempted only 7 shots in total. For a player hyped as the league's next great star, that number was shockingly low. Yet, the media had long propped her up by pointing to her efficiency. Her 47.4% shooting percentage was often contrasted with Caitlin Clark's rookie mark of 41.7%. For many, that statistic was evidence that Bueckers was more polished, more prepared, and more effective at the professional level. But statistics without context can be misleading. Bueckers' numbers were built against defenses that afforded her space, respect, and room to operate. Clark's were forged under unrelenting fire, against double teams, physical fouls, and nightly targeting that no other player in the league has endured. When Bueckers finally faced the Storm, the truth was exposed. Her efficiency was never proof of superiority. It was a reflection of the environment she was playing in. Once stripped of that protection, her game crumbled like a fragile house of cards. The contrast between Clark and Bueckers could not be clearer. Clark takes the toughest shots in the league, often while blanketed by multiple defenders, and still produces historic numbers. Her baskets are born of suffocating pressure, testing not just her skill but her endurance and toughness. Bueckers, meanwhile, had thrived in softer conditions, and the illusion of effortless scoring shattered the moment Seattle ramped up the intensity. 2 made field goals in 11 attempts. 0 assists. 2 rebounds. That's not the resume of a superstar. That's the resume of a player who still has everything to prove. Seattle's message to the league was loud and simple: Paige Bueckers will have to earn it, the same way Caitlin Clark has from day one. Analysts and fans had praised Paige Bueckers for weeks, insisting that her smooth game, high percentages, and unshakable poise marked her as the league's next great star. Her breakout 44-point performance against Los Angeles had seemed like proof that the hype was justified. But just days later, under the bright lights of August 22, 2025, all that confidence unraveled. Against the Seattle Storm, Bueckers was exposed in a way few anticipated. Seattle's game plan was simple yet ruthless. Test her skill, her endurance, and her toughness in the same way teams have targeted Caitlin Clark since her first professional game. The difference was night and day. Whereas Clark has built her reputation against relentless resistance, Bueckers had thrived on something far less demanding: cleaner looks, softer defenses, and a general lack of physical intimidation. That illusion of effortless dominance shattered the moment the Storm ratcheted up the pressure. They smothered her with double teams, applied full-court defense, and refused to give her the rhythm she enjoyed just days earlier. Her efficiency collapsed dramatically, like a fragile house of cards swept into a tornado. The numbers told the story with cruel precision: 2 made field goals on 11 attempts. That was not efficiency, it was exposure. A harsh spotlight revealing the gap between myth and reality. On that night, Bueckers finally received her first taste of what Clark has faced every single game since college. A full-court defensive blitz. Pressure applied 94 feet from the basket. Opponents swarming her before she could even cross half-court. Under that suffocating assault, her composure cracked. Frustration was etched across her face. Her confidence shook with each possession. She looked overwhelmed, teetering on the verge of breaking down on the floor. For months, the media and her most loyal supporters had insisted that Paige Bueckers was the WNBA's next great hope. The heir to Clark, the savior of the league, the player who would carry women's basketball into a new era. Some analysts went even further, painting her as superior to Clark, more cerebral, more fundamentally sound, and even more historically significant after she surpassed Clark's collegiate scoring records. Half a season was apparently enough for pundits to crown her the face of the league. But when reality struck, when true defensive pressure finally arrived, she was unprepared. For the first time, she was asked to carry the same weight Clark has carried since day one. And in that moment she crumbled. The statistics from the 2024 season only emphasized the contrast. Across the league, 35 flagrant fouls were called. Out of that number, nearly 1 in 5 were committed against Caitlin Clark alone. That is an astonishing ratio for a single player, especially one in her rookie campaign. No other star absorbed punishment at such a relentless rate. Clark wasn't just fouled, she was slammed, shoved, dragged into confrontations that at times resembled mixed martial arts more than basketball. Opponents treated her like a bullseye, with strategies designed not just to contain her but to wear her down physically and mentally. By comparison, Paige Bueckers faced nothing close to that intensity. She floated through her rookie year largely unscathed, rarely challenged with double teams, and rarely forced to fight for space. The difference in treatment could not be more glaring. Clark has endured nightly battles that might have broken lesser players. Yet she has stood tall through every one of them, proving her resilience as much as her skill. Bueckers, however, when finally subjected to just a single game of Clark-level treatment, faltered completely. The so-called next Caitlin Clark turned into just another player heading back to the bench, her myth demolished under pressure. The verdict is unavoidable. Paige Bueckers is talented, no one doubts that. But talent alone is not enough. She has yet to prove that she is built for the unforgiving spotlight, the hostile attention, and the warlike conditions that Caitlin Clark has endured from her first day as a professional. Clark's legacy, even this early in her career, is already being carved in stone, not because she was protected, but because she survived and triumphed in conditions few could withstand. Her greatness lies not in easy nights, but in the fact that she has rewritten record books while carrying the heaviest burden in the sport. But let's move away from narratives and look at the numbers that end this debate once and for all. Caitlin Clark's rookie season was unlike anything the WNBA had ever seen. She averaged 19 points, 8.4 assists, and 5.7 rebounds per game. More importantly, she produced those numbers while being the single most targeted player in the league. Every opponent built defensive game plans around her. Every night she was hunted, harassed, and fouled with ruthless consistency. Paige Bueckers, meanwhile, posted comparable stats on paper: 19.7 points, 5.3 assists, and 4.1 rebounds. At first glance, those numbers seemed to put her in Clark's company. But the conditions under which she achieved them were completely opposite. Bueckers faced the softest defensive treatment a star rookie could hope for. Opponents gave her space, respected her jump shot, and rarely delivered the kind of physical punishment Clark absorbed every night. Clark endured flagrant fouls at twice the rate of any other player. Coaches openly instructed their teams to be rough with her, to wear her down, to test her resolve. Even her own coach acknowledged publicly that the level of aggression directed at her often crossed into unacceptable territory. Bueckers, by contrast, walked through the league as if shielded by invisible glass. She enjoyed freedom, time, and room to breathe. Luxuries Clark has never once been afforded. That protection evaporated the moment Seattle decided to guard her like Clark. The Storm turned up the heat, and Bueckers vanished. 11 total points. 0 assists. 2 rebounds. A brutal -7 in the plus-minus column. For a player hyped as Clark's equal, or even her superior, it was nothing short of a collapse. Seattle's defensive coordinator, Noah Quinn, revealed afterward just how meticulous the plan was. Stopping Paige wasn't about assigning one defender. It required an all-hands commitment. A layered scheme in which the first, second, and third lines of defense rotated seamlessly to close her options. Brittany Sykes took the lead assignment but received constant help from Skylar Diggins, Gabby Williams, and Erica Wheeler. Together, they contested every shot, cut off every lane, and erased the clean looks that had fueled Bueckers' reputation. The strategy worked to perfection. Every dribble was labored, every release contested, every movement challenged. In exposing Bueckers, Seattle revealed a harsh truth. Once stripped of the soft treatment she had grown accustomed to, Paige Bueckers was unable to adapt. The Storm not only beat her, they built a defensive model the rest of the league could follow. This is where Caitlin Clark again sets herself apart. From her very first professional game, she has faced this exact treatment and more. Multiple defenders crashing her space. Hacks that border on assault. Teams scheming every possession to contain her. And yet, under that constant fire, she has thrived. She has rewritten records while carrying the heaviest load in the league, without excuses, without a grace period, and without protection. Bueckers' defenders will point to her injuries, her torn ACL, her time away from the game, as reasons for her uneven performances. They will argue she is still regaining rhythm. But that only underscores the difference. Clark had no excuses, no safety net, and no patience from anyone. She was painted as public enemy number one and forced to prove herself instantly. Instead of breaking, she hardened into one of the most resilient competitors the sport has ever seen. Bueckers, meanwhile, was given a red carpet. She debuted in front of friendly defenses and flattering conditions. And when those conditions disappeared, when she was finally tested at Clark's level, she wilted. Seattle's performance was not just a win. It was a message. It revealed that the narrative of Bueckers as Clark's equal was a media creation, not a reality. One night of suffocating defense was enough to collapse the illusion, and that is the difference. Clark has never been afforded the illusion. From the very beginning, she has lived under fire, and still, she has thrived. They'll point to her torn ACL. They'll bring up the time she spent away from the game. They'll argue that Paige Bueckers is still regaining her rhythm and that patience is required. But all of those explanations only highlight the sharp contrast between her and Caitlin Clark. Clark had no safety net. No excuses. No grace period. From the moment she stepped into the league, she was painted as public enemy number one. Every night, she was hunted by the most physical defenses imaginable, pushed to the edge of what was legal, and often beyond it. And through all of that, she thrived. Bueckers, by comparison, entered the WNBA on a red carpet. For most of her rookie year, she was guarded softly, allowed space, and given freedom to shine under conditions carefully designed to flatter her. The moment those protections disappeared, the illusion vanished. When the Seattle Storm treated her with the same suffocating pressure Clark has faced from day one, she collapsed. Seattle's defensive plan wasn't about one matchup. It was about execution, discipline, and relentlessness from all 5 players on the floor. They rotated, boxed out, swarmed passing lanes, and balanced intensity with control. Even in the chaos, they allowed only 12 second-chance points in the first half. Paige had nowhere to run. So the question becomes, can Paige ever step into Clark's shoes? Or has the experiment already revealed its flaws? Why Paige will never be Clark despite the hype, the numbers, and the carefully constructed narrative. the Paige Bueckers project looks more like smoke and mirrors than the rise of a superstar. The Dallas Wings, with all the supposed advantages of having the next Clark, are sitting at 9-28. Their season is over before it even mattered. The number 1 pick looks wasted on a player not ready for the spotlight. Clark's story couldn't be more different. She didn't just improve her team. She resurrected the Indiana Fever. A franchise once buried at the bottom of the standings suddenly became must-see basketball. Clark sold out arenas, shattered television records, and pulled casual fans into women's basketball like never before. She didn't just lift her teammates, she elevated the entire league. Meanwhile, Bueckers, even with favorable conditions, couldn't deliver consistent wins. And if August 22nd was any preview, her adjustment to Clark-level treatment will be long, painful, and unforgiving. That night, her stat line was brutal: 11 points, 0 assists, and a -7 while on the floor. Not one assist. For a player billed as being on Clark's level, or even better, it was a devastating collapse. Seattle's game plan worked to perfection. Brittany Sykes hounded her. Skylar Diggins and Gabby Williams shadowed every move. Erica Wheeler cut off driving lanes. Together, they erased her comfort zone and revealed what happens when she isn't gifted wide-open looks. Caitlin Clark has been living in that world since her debut. Double teams, triple teams, defenders physically mauling her, and yet, she continues to rewrite the record books. Clark never had the luxury of easy nights, and she never asked for excuses. Instead, she's proven she belongs among the greatest by standing tall under relentless fire. Supporters of Paige will say injuries explain her struggles. But the truth is, Clark has had no such cushion. She didn't ask for patience, she demanded respect. And she earned it the hard way. The harsh reality: what's most telling is how both players affect the game beyond scoring. On her worst shooting nights, Clark has still created 9 or 10 assists, keeping her team competitive. Paige, under pressure, disappears. Without scoring efficiency, her game crumbles because she doesn't bring the same versatility, creativity, or resilience to the table. Yet the media has forced a rivalry narrative that doesn't exist. They've written stories suggesting Paige could rival, or even surpass, Clark, cherry-picking shooting percentages while ignoring the very different circumstances each player faced. ESPN even slotted Bueckers at number 13 in their mid-season rankings, while Clark ranked higher despite carrying a far heavier burden. But all of that narrative collapsed on one night. When Bueckers finally faced the kind of defense Clark sees every game, the truth was undeniable. The supposed error was a media creation. And under the bright lights, the illusion shattered. The bigger picture: the WNBA, alongside its media partners, must now face reality. There is no next Caitlin Clark. She isn't just another star in the making. She is a generational figure, an athlete whose influence stretches beyond the court. Clark has done for women's basketball what Tiger Woods did for golf. She dragged it into the mainstream. She fills arenas, boosts television numbers, and creates storylines that attract fans who never cared before. Paige, on the other hand, hasn't delivered. The Dallas Wings play in half-empty arenas, and their attendance sits near the bottom of the league. She hasn't moved the needle, no matter how much hype was poured into her rise. The reality is harsh but simple. Once tested, she faltered. The turning point wasn't just another loss. It was the night her hype collapsed. August 22nd will be remembered as the moment the truth broke through. Clark remains the true standard. The player who not only elevates her own performance, but lifts the league with her. Everyone else, including Paige, is playing for second place. And based on what we saw against Seattle, some aren't even close. The media's agenda has been exposed. The manufactured hype is gone. And the only real question left is this: will anyone ever rise to Clark's level? Or is she already carving out a legacy untouchable for a generation? So what do you think about Paige Bueckers' shocking declaration? Was it confidence or delusion? Let us know in the comments below.